Good morning everyone, happy Monday. Welcome to Join Jackie, Monday mornings at 10. Today I'm talking about more aged care stuff. So last week I spoke about granny flat arrangements, and that is keeping someone out of care and on the pension, because they may have sold their principal place of residence, but then they need to offload some of that money so it's not counted as an asset, and they can do that in the form of a granny flat arrangement. The other situation that often comes up is that an elderly person does not want their house to be sold, and so they're scared about going into care or needing to go into care in case their house will be forced to be sold. So sometimes this fear mistakenly arises because they think that the value of the home will disappear, that it will not be available for their kids later, and that's just not true. So sometimes it's an unfounded error or mistake and belief that the elderly person thinks that they have to pay to go into care and that money doesn't come back to their children. But it does. It is a refundable aged care deposit, a RAD, refundable aged care deposit. So it has to be refunded after someone passes away. So if the house sells for, $400,000 or $500,000 and they go into aged care and they pay $350,000 in a bond, that $350,000 does come back. Sometimes it's eaten into a little bit, sometimes there is interest on it. Okay, so the elderly person might be worried about their capital completely disappearing, which is not the case. Other times, it is an asset that just has such huge sentimental value, it's so hard earned that the elderly person doesn't want the house to go, that they think the family wants to keep it forever. And again, sometimes this is a mistaken belief because the house is held on to until the elderly person passes away and then the family sells it anyway. So sometimes that needs a bit of a deeper exploration about why the elderly person doesn't want the family home to be sold. But then we come down to aged care fees. And someone going into aged care really should get some financial advice from an actual financial planner who specialises in aged care before going down the path of having the assessment to go into care, because the timing of the assessment can be really crucial, particularly if it's an elderly couple. So the family home, no, I'll go back a step. The asset test for aged care is different from it is from a pension. So the family home is not completely exempt under an aged care assessment, where it is exempt under Centrelink. How can you keep it exempt under the asset test for aged care? Well, if the other spouse still has to live at home, for example. So if one spouse needs to go into care, the house is exempt from the asset test for care in that case. Or if there is a dependent child who needs to still live in the house can be exempt. Okay, so these things are really important to make sure that the asset test is done properly, and the financial planner who is a specialist in aged care can help do that before you even go in. Another couple of things. So there are sort of two elements to the fees of aged care, and one is also the basic daily rate, and everyone has to pay this regardless. Then the testing is whether someone goes in as a low means resident, so they may not have to pay much of a RAD, if at all. They can be government funded, or if they go in at market value. So the minimum daily rate is about $50 a day, which is about 85% of the pension if someone was on a pension. So daily or basic daily rate plus the aged care deposit. So it is quite a complex situation. At least there's only one formula for everyone. So it's really important to go and get that financial advice before going down the path of getting an assessment for aged care. The other aspect, I suppose, as well is whether someone wants to do some tricky estate planning prior to getting that aged care assessment, and looking at having someone else come in as a partial owner of that property or something like that as well. Bearing in mind that there's stamp duty to do that. So how much do you want to pay in tax to avoid paying more daily rates? So again, sometimes what we think is logical might not bear out with a financial test if you get that financial advice. So I hope that's a good starting point for anyone who has elderly parents looking at going into care, or someone who has a partner who is looking at needing care in the next few years. Really consider getting some financial advice first, but thinking about how that house factors in and whether it's a better idea to sell or not. Okay. I'll be back again next Monday for Join Jackie on Monday mornings. If this is useful for anyone that you know of, please tag their name in the comments. Or if it's a private thing, please share it with them via Messenger. This, while it's live at the moment, will be saved onto the page just like all the other videos. So you can go back and have a look at any video that might be relevant for you at the time. Every Monday, Join Jackie, 10 o'clock. See you next week.